Hello, 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 welcome. This is another redstone tutorial video. Wow, it's been a while, right? Okay, I'm going to show you two designs here, which make red nether brick. And if you don't know, red nether brick is this recipe. You can also do it for other recipes like, let's say, coarse dirt. Oh, you think it's simple, right? You just do this 2 times, then this 2 times, or something like that, right? But no, you have to do 1, 2, 2, 1. That is the pattern that you have to go for. It's not all that common, but it is a problem to solve for this kind of crafting recipe, right? The easiest way to do it is just to do something like this. A crafter facing into here. Some droppers, right? Just a line of redstone. And you split the materials like this, right? And the other one leads straight down to here. And just place in all of your stuff, right? Just press it. Yeah, okay. And you can always just make it cyclical. And this is probably the simplest design you can make here. But I'll show you 2 different designs that I would do instead if you want it to be a little bit more compact, you know, and you don't have to use all 4 droppers, right? So this design, you can ignore these blocks here. This is just to start it with a button press. As you can see here, you have the comparator comparing. If it's the same value as this one, which everything is full, this is all full, right? It will go into this block and power that. Now we have something else here. I'll talk about that later. But when we do power it, we actually power this block, which powers this crafter down here. The crafter goes straight into this block. And this is an important block. This is the first dropper that drops something into a hopper line, which is kind of obfuscated with the comparators up above. I'll talk about that later as well. But there's 2 droppers that face right into 2 hoppers that face right into a crafter, right? So that's how the line of items go. When this goes, this triggers this dropper, and it also triggers this rail. Now you don't actually need the rail. you don't need the rail. I just put it there because I thought, wow, dust is laggy, but I made this before the whole redstone experiments thing happened. So what the observer does, it reads the state when this turns on, and then eventually this will turn off. So it sends 2 distinct pulses there. So the observer, it powers this redstone dust into the block, powers this dropper 2 times. While that happens, we have the target block here so that it actually is able to route into this piston. And this piston, as you will see, will move the block down 1, move the block up again, right? Also, if your piston ever gets out of line, you can always just do that. As you can see the sequence, right? This powers this dropper, that's 1. And then it powers this twice before it's able to power this. So 1, 2, 2, 1, like in the beginning, right? And here are some extras that I put around here, right? I have these 2 hoppers being read from because you don't want to continue this all the way until there's nothing in these droppers, right? And I have no room to actually take a line out of the droppers, so we're reading the hoppers instead, which is probably better, right? Because if there's nothing in the hoppers, then there still must be something in the droppers. So what this does is if each of these are on, then this will turn off, which will turn off this line, and it will turn on this, which is part of this circuit, right? So this is the circuit where it detects if it's able to craft something, and it is able to craft something, but the signal can't go through because I don't want it to keep crafting when there's nothing in there, right? So that's what this does. You can also force a craft with this. I have a little monostable circuit that goes into 4 tick repeaters, 2 of them, because that's the amount of time that it takes for this to power and unpower, right? I'm saying that this is 8 ticks, by the way. It will power the crafter, craft the item, and it will also do the whole thing again. It bypasses the entire restriction where if one of these is empty, then nothing will happen, right? So you power it, you can see a new recipe emerges there. If you look at this, while I press it, it goes down and then goes up again. Very, very fast. And this is the lowest setting you can set this dude. This is 3 ticks here. Oh, if it's any faster, the first dropper won't fire again. I'll show you the other design that I came up with just recently, tonight, actually. So the same things apply here, right? But I've made it a little bit smaller, compact, and I've added some things. So I have it being read from the hoppers here, and these torches power this line. If both of them are off, this is off. If both of them are on, or if one of these are on, this is on, right? And right now I have it stopped with this lever. So if I on power, it will continue the cycle again. Now, here's the thing, this lever is not foolproof. If I remove this at the wrong time, I mean, if I power this when this is on, it will break the system. So you always have to kind of time it when it's off. You can do the same over here, just power the target block here. Now, this is the same thing I just outlined in the blue, but this is the same monostable circuit here, so you don't have to think about that. And this is just an item sorter. So if you have any miscellaneous items, right? A problem of this is that if an item that isn't stackable within here, this comparator is always on, right? Because it can't receive that item, which means there's always something in the hopper, right? As soon as it stops, it opens up a slot, that thing will go in there and it will become part of a recipe that it's not supposed to be a part of. That is the reason why there's an item filter here now. One of the other things that I did was I have shortened this, so you don't really need the block that is next to the crafter. You can still take the comparator signal out of the crafter 1 block away, but I wanted to make it more compact in a way. And so I did away with that, and what I did instead of powering this block in order to craft, I power this redstone dust that faces into it in order to craft. This receives power, this goes in here, right? It goes past this block into this block, it powers this redstone dust, which powers the dropper and the crafter. Now it also powers this no block, which I also have being read by an observer. And for an observer, you can understand this, right? I basically replaced this mechanism here with a copper bulb because it works the same way, basically. Okay, so the observer powers this twice, right? Which means it turns the copper bulb on and off. And if you ever need to reset the copper bulb for any reason, you can always just press that, right? So it powers into this block, into this redstone dust, and this redstone dust, it uses the block that uses the comparator for the crafter check here, and then it goes into this repeater, which goes into the block underneath the first dropper. And this needs to be set at 4 ticks, otherwise it won't work. That's how that runs. You can see it work again. It basically does the same thing as the other ones, right? If you take this out before this is able to turn off when it's on, right, then the signal, the length gets a little bit warped, and you'll have a doo-doo recipe in there that you have to remove. That works like that. You can press this, we'll do 1 craft, it will go back in the same way. And this is just a little bit taller than I would want, right? If there wasn't quasi connectivity, we can possibly have just 1 more block added to the back, and I would be able to move a piston here, right? But because the torch powers that, we aren't able to make it more compact in this way. I have this version in the EchoCraft world that I use here, and if you didn't notice, we are using the redstone experiments as shown by the new redstone torch look. However, I did find a bug here. Let's say it's like this, right? I tried to do this before, like instead of putting the lever there, I would just limit what can go into these chests at the moment, right? And so I did that. And then when I put this down and then remove that, the signal doesn't go, even though it's supposed to be updating there, right? So I redirected it and then removed the redirection. It didn't update the power to this block, and it didn't send the signal through. So yeah, that's a thing that can happen. And as you can see there, we had a little bit of a misfire because we took it out while it went up, which it updated the redstone just a little bit to be able to send a pulse through, but that pulse wasn't long enough for this whole contraption to work. Just remember to also set that back, because when you have the wrong timing, you can actually make it worse. Remove the items and do it again. It should work. Yes. And I'll unpower that so we can keep on going here, right? And it doesn't really matter where, in which order you put these in. If this one is dirt, the other one has to be gravel. If this one is gravel, then the other one has to be dirt. Yada yada, right? So this is the one that uses 2 droppers. So it's a little bit more complex than the one that uses just like a couple. It's just the 4 droppers and just divides the items, right? Also, another problem with dividing the items here is that if you, let's say, put in 1 block at a time, right? It's going to choose one of these hoppers to pull from, right? So this only works if you're able to keep stacks in here so that it can split the stacks evenly. If it goes in 1 at a time, it will choose a hopper to go out 1 at a time, because the hopper will choose on 1 tick whether it's going to pull out the item. And if 1 item gets pulled out of the hopper and there's only 1 item in here, then it's only going to be pulled out from that hopper and that hopper only. So that's going to be it. I thought this was going to be a short-ish video, but here's how you craft red nether bricks and other shaped, almost shapeless crafting recipes. So yeah, have a good day, good night, good life, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.